All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, how is everybody this morning? I am going to apologize for my voice. We married off our daughter yesterday, and so I think I was up for about 24 hours straight. So I got nothing left. So we're definitely gonna need you all to do a lot of the talking this morning. But it was a beautiful ceremony performed by Brother Casey, and it was absolutely fantastic. And so I think that means she's off the payroll, but someone says that they're never off the payroll. So I'll get back to you next week and let you know about that. All right. So we've been talking about walking the walk, and so for those of you who are new, my name is Terry Brown, and I'm leading the discussions on this topic. And so last week we were talking about walking in humility, and so that was the fifth step in our walk, and we started with faith and obedience and spirit and truth, and then our last topic was humility, and our homework was to find an area where we could practice humility. And so before we get to our next step, I wanted to see if anybody had a chance to do that, if anybody had an opportunity to practice humility in a way that they'd be willing to share. Anybody? Going once? Nobody? Going twice? All right, I guess that means we need to keep practicing that one. All right, okay? We'll keep working on practicing our humility. So obviously, humility can be that's a tough step because some people make it really difficult to be humble. And some of us make it really difficult to be humble. We're sort of the problem. And so we move from that sort of very difficult step to what some may say is among the most difficult steps. And so our topic today will be walking in forgiveness. Yeah, see that? Yeah, somebody said, oh. Because forgiveness is, it's a word that's all over the Bible, but that's tough. It's tough. When you look up the word forgiveness, it comes from a word, charizomai, which means, it's got several meanings, but one of them is to grant as a favor. It means to rescue. And I think the third one is probably the toughest one, is to pardon. Heard a lot about that lately, right? So to pardon. To pardon means to no longer hold a person responsible for something that they've done. Like you wipe it off the books, like it didn't happen. You've been pardoned. Didn't mean that what you did wasn't wrong. It just means that you are no longer being held accountable for it. To pardon someone. Now, I don't think, because what do we say when we talk about forgiveness? We say, oh, I'll forgive, but I don't think that's a pardon. Right? Because if you don't forget it, that means you can go get it anytime you want it. You just go get it and bring it back, right? I was joking with you a couple weeks ago about that time that I was trying to teach my wife how to drive a stick, and that thing has been 30 years ago. There's no chance of me ever teaching her to drive a stick, right? Now I don't think she's still mad about it. She remembers, right? See, yeah, there you go. Man, I thought she was still outside. Did not see her walk back in here. And so So as we begin to talk about forgiveness, I think we need to understand what it means, right? It means a pardon. Like, I don't think what we want is for God to forgive us, but not to forget it. Like, what I need him to do is forget it, right? And so sometimes when we pray, you'll hear someone say, forgive us of our sins and cast it into the sea of forgetfulness. Like, don't remember it. Like, I don't see it anymore, right? Yes, Sister Keel, you had your hand up.
Yes, so we have a mind. We're not going to forget unless we become, what you call it, when you can't remember, with dimensions or something. So I am going to constantly have it in my memory, but I'm not going to use it against you.
Okay, and that's a good first step, right? Because, but here's the thing, and I think this is what we got to work on, right? So Sister Keel's point was, hey, I have memory, right? You know, CRS hasn't set in yet, where I can't remember stuff, right? And so because I remember, but what we have to be careful about is, like, sometimes people do things to us. And what memory will cause you to do sometimes is every time you see that person, the first thing that pops into your mind, even if you don't say anything about it, the first thing that pops in your mind is what they did to you. Right? And so that's what we got to work against that, because that's not what God does to us. Right? When we address God, God doesn't say, oh, here comes this joker. Yeah, he's the one that was the sinner that did blah. No. Right? All I want God to see is the blood on the doorpost. You don't need to know nothing else, God, other than I'm covered. I am one of your covered. So I don't need you to remember how much you had to forget. I don't need you to do none of that. I'm covered. Right? And so when we, and I'm not suggesting this is easy, but when we go to forgive someone, all we need to see when we see that person, they've been covered. How you keep worrying about that? Now, every time you see them, you're going to think about that thing they did to you back in 98, right? I mean, I forgave him. Let me tell you something. Every time I see him, I think about, well, wait, I don't know if you forgave him then. If that keeps coming up, right, that can't be the first 40 seconds of the encounter, right? You walk up and you telling me good morning, and all I'm thinking about is, I cannot believe this joker did that to me, and he's supposed to be Church of Christ. And so now eventually we're going to get to whatever we're talking about. But if that is the first thing that happens every time I see you, I think maybe I haven't pardoned you, right? And so we gotta give what we want to get. That's not the kind of forgiveness I want from God, right? And so let me stop talking so I can let somebody else start talking. But so let's think about that. Let's ask this question. What's a situation where you found it hard to forgive? And you don't have to give up any family secrets, but just think through that, right? And if there's something you can share, then let's share it. But what's a situation where you found it difficult to forgive? Now, this one I know everyone's had, so I was sitting on y'all hands, right? Yes.
Go back to your prior point. We look at Jesus as the prime example of forgiveness. He's on the cross being crucified, innocent. But he says to God, forgive them, for they know not
what they do. No doubt.
The person might have forgotten they did you wrong, but if you carry that around, it eats at you, and it actually affects your mental well-being.
and it misses its intended target. I don't even know what you're mad about. Like, I'm as happy as I can be. Now you mad because I'm happy. I mean, how can he be so happy knowing that, like, I don't remember. And so you're absolutely right. And so if you think about that for a second, right? 70 times 7. When's the last time you let somebody get you 490 times? Right? Like, we stop at about, right. You probably are up near over 500, Lester, yes, that she has forgiven you. But 409, just think about that for a second. That's a big number, right? Like, just imagine if what the person doing to you was, every time you saw them, they slapped you in the face. I mean, I can guarantee you, I'm not going to let nobody do that to me 490 times, right? Like, I'm going to move. I'm just going to stop doing that. Like, why am I going to keep walking and getting myself hit, right? Yes, Ruth Calvin.
Maybe God, Jesus, they understood how hard it is to forgive one time. That's why he might have said 70 times 7.
Sure.
Think about it. And another thing, I don't want to think about the last time I had to forgive somebody or what, if I'm holding a grudge, because if I'm going to think about it, the devil's going to put something into my mind, and I don't need that. Thank you.
There it is. There it is. And so that sometimes is the trouble. I'm coming to you. Oh, I see a bunch of hands. That's the trouble sometimes, because we are trying to act like this forgiveness thing is a bifurcated system, right? I'm going to forgive you, but I will never forget what you did, said, hurt. I'm never going to forget that. And you got to be careful, because we're not, sometimes we're not developed enough to do that, right? To say we forgive, but not forget, right? Because sometimes it's in the remembering where the forgiveness gets lost, right? I saw a couple hands. Yes.
Yeah, the class I've been taking recently is.
Oh, say your name
on
for the recording. Say your name.
Oh, it's Susan.
Susan. Yes.
It's on the one another's, and forgiving one another is a commandment. It's
a
not
big
an
one.
option.
That's right.
But what I've kind of learned, it isn't forgetting, but it's not holding malice.
There it is.
And Christ forgave before they ask you to forgive, as Michael said. We don't wait for even that person, because that person may never ask you for
That's right.
forgiveness.
That's right.
But it frees you.
That's right.
But then one of the other things I've learned is that, it's not necessarily trusting that person. You may never trust that person the way you did before.
Right. It's not being a fool.
It may not always
right?
restore relationship. Your relationship may be changed forever. But, and one of the things we also learned is when we stand before the Lord, that everything you've done in your life will be laid out. But when you get to that one part of whatever that sin was, that's forgiven. In other words, it's
to the Passover, right? There's nothing to talk about,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
The blood's on the doorpost. Your kid doesn't get killed.
But it still will be
Right.
exposed. It wasn't
Right.
totally forgotten.
And what that means is that listen, everything gets written as you do them, right? And so me forgiving you doesn't apply an eraser, right? It just means, man, that ain't
You don't hold that.
that's not driving the bus anymore,
exactly.
right? And so that is no longer important. Our relationship is no longer defined by the things you did. It's not. It's really done by who I am and how I allow you to operate in this space where you don't get what you deserve. That's godly, right? And so it is, and again, no one's pretending that it's easy, right? And no one's pretending that, if a person swindles you out of 50 grand, right? Hey man, I'm gonna forgive you in that, I may not take you to court. I may not hate you. I may not put my hands on you. I'm never giving you another penny. Like I'm not stupid though either, right?
But if you don't forgive, that kind of power is going to mess up your life.
Absolutely.
And your walk with the Lord.
Right, because now what happens is
Controls
it is affecting and impacting me more than it is the person. And so you're the one getting eaten up inside, right? Not them. They're off to swindling somebody else, right? So
Hopefully
it
not.
just right. Yeah, say your name.
So I'm Thomas.
Thomas, yes.
You talked about forgetting. You just brought a subject up about money.
Sure.
Okay, I'm in that situation.
Right.
I wish I could forget.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right.
How do we overcome that eating away of us, that he got away with it?
Correct. And so I think and that's a great question, right? So how do you deal with a person doing you wrong and you not being bothered by the fact that you feel like they either got away with it or got one over on you, right? And then every time you see him, you're like, I mean, this dude, like he owed me. Where's my money?
I avoid them. I
Right.
started a new
That's right.
company. I'm making it better than it was before. But I can't forget the fact, especially from where I grew up. I grew up in Queens, New York, in a mob family.
Right.
So
Forgetting and forgiveness
yeah,
is it's on a
you
slow
heard me
boat,
once, I give
right?
you back. You heard me once, I give back.
I give you twice. There you go. There you
Well,
go.
that's done with. There's
Right.
a new
That's
life
right.
here.
That's right. That's
My
right.
life in Christ is different.
Absolutely.
So I forgave him, but it's eating me up every day.
Right.
And even knowing that I just started another $1 million company,
Sure.
it's still
It
irking me
bothers
that
you,
He's
right.
walking around knowing, I got over on you.
Right. And so what then happens is you have a combination of things, right? So now you have this issue of forgiveness. You also have this issue of what we talked about last time, this humility, right? And see, it's pride that'll get you bothered, right? Because you know, and you know he knows, but you walk around and nobody else knows, and then that bothers you, right? Like, seriously? Like, and now you want everybody else to know the kind of person that he really is, just because, and maybe so that they don't get swung, make you feel better too, right? And so it becomes a battle. And again, like this forgiveness thing, this isn't a walk in the park, right? Especially when, look, you lived your life a certain way. And now you've decided you're going to live your life this way. But when you wake up the next morning, all those 40 years of living your life that way didn't just disappear, right? It's been a pattern. It's been a practice operandi. It's been a way of doing. Man, you got to work at that, not doing what comes naturally to you, right? Because like that don't happen to me, like because I take care of that, right? Well, now I live a different life, and so and again, it takes time and it takes prayer and it takes the help of your brothers and sisters to make sure that you're never alone trying to deal with that. Man, reach out and ask for help. Like, hey, Thomas, don't do it. Thomas, it ain't worth it. Right. It ain't worth it, Thomas. Right.
People now.
And so that becomes really important, is that as we go through these things, this concept of letting go and letting God is real. Like, just let it go. Just let it go. I'm gonna let God handle that. That's it. And that's why we talked a couple weeks ago about that first 60 seconds of the day, those first 5 minutes of the day. Man, like if you can get at the God, if you can let God in first before anything else gets in, you got a fighting chance, right? And so that's the process. But it's like anything else. It's one day at a time. And sometimes one moment at a time, right? It's a bad phone call. It's just something happens that triggers that thing that guy did to you, right? You weren't even thinking about it, but something happened and you like, I know I could fix this. I could fix it, right? But you gotta let go and let God, right? And again, it's a cute saying, but it's really difficult because people are not godly. And so sometimes it is very difficult for us to be godly when we're dealing with
But understanding that, I can fall in the same, take it in stages. You take your time and you fix the situation as best as you can because you can do something wrong too. And so if we can look beyond understand that we need to love this person. When our child does something wrong, do we hold it all against them? Don't we forgive? And then,
Absolutely.
we try. And so We just want to look at them as a human being.
Right. You don't put them out the house.
No,
Right.
don't put them.
Right.
It-
Your baby spills milk, out you go. Right. No.
You know,
Right.
as I'm saying, if we can love, if we can love them, leave our gift at the altar, go back and reconcile with them. Even when they are, I'll take the wrong for Christ's sake.
That's it.
I'll take the wrong
That's
just to make it right.
Ever ask God for forgiveness? Anybody? Right. And you went back and did the same thing again? Oh, y'all ain't gonna raise your hand this time. Y'all just gonna say yes, but no one's gonna raise their hand. Only me, right? So again, you have to be willing to give what it is you're asking for. Right? Like, man, there's some stuff I keep doing. Right? And I think I'm being really sincere when I ask for forgiveness. And then I look up and I done it again. And then I look up and I done it again. Right? And God is long suffering with me. He's patient because suffering with me. He's patient because he's like, and love is all those things you sang about in that song today, right? It endures all, it bears all, right? It does all of that. And man, that's what we signed up for, right? Yes. Angela, say your name out loud. Angela. No, that just said it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I would like to concur with what Brother Lee
Steve.
said
Mm-hmm.
about prayer. You know, it really goes way beyond, you know, the flesh. This flesh is a mess. And, you know, this flesh is a mess. And we're able to do and say anything.
That's a T-shirt right there. The flesh is a mess. I love that. Right.
It is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to rely on God. We need to trust Him.
Let go and let God. That's right.
That new life you're
That's right.
talking about, we need to trust Him. Proverbs 3 and 5 is my go-to. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart.
Lean not on your own understanding. Right.
All